your fitness business podcast snapshot. Is content king or is it connection? What does it mean to rethink your content? Do you really need content on every platform? And is what you are producing quality content? All of that and more coming up in today's episode. Hey, welcome to episode 337 of the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. It's me, your host, Dory Nugent. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast partner, MyZone, the game-changing wearable tech platform that drives deeper community engagement, whether in a gym, outdoors, or at home. Discover how to make a difference at myzone.org. MyZone has pioneered unique wearables with talking point technology that makes the difference. Reach more members of your community and keep them engaged for longer through motivation and gamification wherever they choose to work out. In the gym, at home, or outdoors, we're stronger together. Get in the zone at myzone.org. Glad to have you back for another episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. I hope your new year is starting off refreshed and positive. All right, there are so many things that I love about this podcast, and one of them is that our experts are from all over the world. Now, today's guest, Mohit Rajhans, joins us from Canada. So a shout out to all of our Canadian FBP family. Okay, let's get started. With over 15 years of experience, Mohit has worked in all industries related to content, media, and digital marketing. He has written 2 books regarding this subject matter and has led massive digital campaigns. It's pretty factual to say Mohit is an expert when it comes to the topic of media content. So please welcome Mohit Rajhans to the podcast. Fitness Business Podcast, I'd like to introduce our guest today to you. He is the co-founder of ThinkStart. His name is Mohit Rajhans. Mohit, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Congratulations on this new podcast. I'm really excited to hear more episodes of this. So I appreciate you having me on early in this journey for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, now the podcast has been around for 5 years. I am the newest host.
I know.
So
yeah.
I'm about 6 months in, but yeah, we've been here for 5 years. We love our podcast. It's international, and we are at about 750,000 downloads. So we're really excited, and we're glad to add you onto our list of guests.
I appreciate that. And you should know one thing. You're one of the more forward-thinking groups when it comes down to the fitness business, because you've tackled the importance of understanding content early. And I think that's great. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, good. So you kind of already started our conversation. Content. We're going to talk about content, digital marketing, content in all different ways for those in the fitness industry. So could you just give us a little clarity on content within the fitness industry?
Yeah, I think what the focus of this discussion will definitely be, I'm an author. I recently wrote a book called Rethinking Your Content, and another audio book called Finding Growth Beyond Your Personal Brand. And what I'm trying to do with this is basically preach from the ground level up and stop and say, look, we've been working in the digital media department and in ideas now for the last, 10, 12 years. And we've been feeding the growth of these companies in this wonderful way. And then all of a sudden we got really worried about privacy and about what was happening. But we forget that we've spent all this time actually building these behemoths. So now is the time for us to sort of stop and say, why are we spending all this time on these platforms? What are we creating this content for? And how does this connection really favor what you're trying to achieve? And in the fitness business in particular, there's so much opportunity, whether you're at a personal level, whether you're simply a creator and want to do something different, or you're looking to really step up the idea of what it is to be a coach. But if you don't do it now, there's no excuses. because if there's one thing that we've learned is that your content right now is so important for you to be able to maintain your business. And so I think it's an important time to do that rethink and that evaluation within the industry.
Yeah, you say about how important content is. I hear the key phrase a lot, content is king. What do you think about that? Why is it king?
Well, I don't believe it is king anymore. And this is the way I describe it to people. These platforms aren't designed to make you specifically successful. So if you think about that, right, there's not a bunch of designers and application developers and coders that are sitting around any of these places and stopping and saying, what is the podcaster in Florida going to best use our platform for? So we have to realize that these are tools that we have to customize for ourselves and use in a way that we can use them properly. So content in that situation can't be king, because if you have, the multi-million-dollar music video and you put it on something that isn't right for your artist or whatever, then that means that content isn't king. And so that immediate disconnection is that we have to start looking at content as being connection points. And we have to stop making it seem like in order for us to make those connection points, we have to be on every platform. Instead, we have to understand that there's a lot of validity in drilling down and understanding where the value is for us. And so I don't believe content is king. I believe your connection is king, and you have to find multiple different types of content to make that connection.
I saw on your website and also your book that you kind of bold out, rethink your content. For a business owner or marketing director that would be listening today, what does that mean?
One of the things that I find interesting is people don't necessarily know what they're doing their content for. They feel like they're just they're part of a game or a system, right? And so when I say rethinking, I'll give you an example. My neighbor doesn't know what I do for a living. So if you think about that, okay, my neighbor in a profession, whatever he does for a profession, et cetera, has definitely some aspect of digital in his life, some aspect of content. Who knows what type of business it is? But he doesn't know what I do for a living. So I think what's happening now is that we've become so accustomed to cast this wide net with our content that we're forgetting that simple things can actually lead to better interaction, better customer acquisition, more insights as to what we're trying to do. The fitness instructor that has served a 3-kilometer radius their entire career does not all of a sudden need an Instagram strategy that'll get them 4,000 likes. That doesn't make sense. And so what I've noticed in particular with this, since COVID, is with fitness instructors, there was a slow adoption to what online meant, right? It was just kind of like, well, we can't learn all of this stuff. Well, you guys were at your desk figuring it out. We were in the gym training all you guys. So there's a disconnect between what the actual competency is. And there's also a slow burn, right? So you got to imagine nothing happened overnight in terms of learning this. So you're not going to learn it overnight either. So what you have to go back to, and what I do in the book, is I go to this method called PLOTS, right? It's an acronym. I talk about partnerships, I talk about licensing, I talk about optimization, tools, and strategic communication. And the reason I say that is because if you go through that rinse with the content idea that you have, you will not do it for you will have a reason to actually do it. And you'll not overthink it. You'll think it from a point where you understand that your time is valuable. So let me give you another example here. If you are a fitness instructor and you created online courses and you started to play the game and you started to work in the idea that you wanted to start to coach people and really expand your offering, right? You did it at a time when many people were trying to do it. So it was really hard for you to decipher what the quality of product was compared to the volume of product. Now that you're in a situation where you can stop and take a step back and assess that, all of those tools that we're talking about have insights that you can benefit from. So don't stop and think to yourself, how can I wear a better outfit to get more interest in what I'm doing? Stop and consider the fact that most of your traffic is coming from one source. And that source requires a different type of content for you to continually get that traffic. That's where I feel like this in rethinking gives you a little bit more breathing room in the idea that look at it like a radio dial, okay? Look at the internet like a radio dial. Like when we were kids, or when Some of us were kids, and you would flip around. That's what the internet is to a lot of people right now. It is that idea that there are many stations that have various different types of things based on the mood that you're in. But if you want a committed connection like fitness professionals want, you have to start thinking about the multiple avenues in which I find that value. And unfortunately, it's not going to be all based on you doing stomach crunches on Instagram.
So I'm glad that you brought this up because I feel like it's a great segue into my next question for you. And that is, fitness businesses think they need content on every platform. And many businesses focus on a platform that the owner personally likes. What are your thoughts on this strategy?
I have worked with people from television reporters at a community station right up to some of the biggest influencers in our country on campaigns. There's not one person who will ever tell me that the platform, TV station, radio station, or whatever, gave them exactly what they deserved and what they were worth. So we have to stop thinking that these platforms are designed to make us better. We have to be better on them. We have to find those ways and play that game. It's not all ethical. Don't get me wrong. Some of it's talking to TikTok creators about why they can't monetize the same way as they did last year is a very different conversation than talking to YouTube creators that have left the platform. So what I'm trying to say is that we can't constantly go back to the idea that it's the platforms that are causing all of this grief, this stress, etc. We have to go back to how we are utilizing them properly. And so let me give you an example. I have a friend of mine, a fitness instructor, who I have asked to go and do music playlists on Spotify. Okay. And because I used to, we talked about the energy of a club in a fitness club, et cetera, and how it's missing. But the reason I said it to her was because the only reason I use Peloton is to listen to the music that I used to listen to when I was younger, 80s, 90s type stuff, et cetera. That's my hook. Can you think about the expensive machine that I'm talking about, the subscription, et cetera, et cetera. I'm only enjoying it because I'm having a ride class and screaming out Nelly lyrics, right? So why do I talk about that? I talk about the fact that soon enough, the fitness influencer who has a little bit of a following on Spotify gets more of a following on Instagram. Soon enough, a TikTok influencer that has built enough on what they're doing, that spillover happens. And that's what you should be striving for more, is building on a platform to a point where you can carry your audience over. Because right now, it's not happening. It's not happening at all. In fact, people are throwing out numbers on TikTok about impressions that they're getting, and they're like, it's a penny compared to what they're getting on Instagram. They don't even have 1,000 followers on one platform, and they've got millions on another. And that's in some ways extremely positive if you're going to monetize off it. But if you can't figure out how your brand actually transcends that, then when TikTok goes down, what are you going to do?
Should our content strategy be different for members, where our focus is retention, and then for non-members where our focus is for sales?
That's actually an unfortunate question that I can't answer. And I'll tell you why. Because it would be completely wrong for a content strategist like myself, or I consider myself more of a content solutions person, to lean back on the idea that I am going to be able to dictate what your customer wants. But instead, you should be more concerned about what the quality is of what you're delivering, because you can stop and say that it's one way for this and one way for the other. But the level setting is based on what your customer persona is. If you're teaching 13 students phys ed, every day at the local school online, and that's a client, that's an entirely different business scenario than if you're teaching one-on-one CEOs. And so I think it's a little tough for me. And I try to pull back on this because I think that a lot of digital prophesizers really want to be the all-in-one solution, saying, no, do this for membership, do this for that, do this. Instead, I'm saying, go to all of the platforms and figure out how the monetization structure works for you properly. And then if you're looking at memberships, et cetera, and retaining that stuff, you have to go back to what you want to drive them to. Imagine this. Imagine you look at your digital footprint as the model home. Okay, the model home in which people will come in and buy the stuff from you, right? You have it staged, you have it well dressed, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way you got to come back to it. That's the way you have to, so that when somebody wants the option, you don't have any hesitation on what you're able to deliver because it sticks to what you're doing. When you go and try to become more of what you're seeing somewhere else, that's when people will skip over it and not interested in it, or I've seen it somewhere else, or it's better on Peloton. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One of the things I noticed that was extremely interesting about Peloton is that I was doing this, and Nordic Track does it too, right? Where you can do these rides. I went through Las Vegas on the Las Vegas Strip on my bike. I went to the mountains in Italy on my bike. And I realized that, well, wait a minute. If this is an indication of something that is going to be involved in immersive content, think about what the benefit that could be for somebody like a fitness instructor who could do a running version of this, who could do running up a mountain and doing a proper point of view. That's game changing, right? Then you're talking about stuff that isn't about stomach crunches and ab workouts and leg lifts at home. So I just feel like I don't think we've really started to do a dive into the other platforms, but I think that the opportunities that exist have to go beyond what we think we're seeing the trends in, and more so how we see more opportunities beyond that. One last thing I want to mention is that when you mentioned retention and clients, et cetera, I just mentioned something to like the school phys ed class. And this is the thing that's driving me nuts. Corporations need fitness online, schools, work, all this sort of stuff. It's part of health and wellness. And unfortunately, I think the trend that started was a lot of gyms said, well, we got to make sure our client base remains our client base. And I don't think the opportunity to expand that business and that idea of where else the business could go was really nurtured properly. And I'm being very general. But what I'm saying is that health and wellness is needed in every different vertical. So if you can go, 4 blocks from yourself to a business district, a business park, and know every company in one building, you've got an instant access to what you can market your services to with the proper footprint ready to go. What you don't have is that ability to stop and say, oh, all these people will come to me as a result of me just building the content. That's not how the world works anymore.
You've talked a lot about quality of content. How do you know whether you're pushing out quality content?
How do I commit to content that actually is stuff that I can live my truth through, and do with that same creativeness and same motivation consistently? I think the consistency is what drives people nuts, because you second guess everything that you're putting into the world. And then from that, you talk yourself out of doing so many things and you become lazy. And what I'm basically saying about it is, there's no way one person's going to be able to say, yeah, you nailed it. And then, it makes sense and all the ducks, fall into a row. But I think that one thing you'll have to understand is that once you veer away from what makes you feel comfortable and what you really truly want to do, it's going to be tough to sustain. You're not an actor. These are personal. I talk about this in my growth branding book, where I say the biggest problem with people learning how to build their personal brands and people learning from all these online coaches was that nobody told them how to deconstruct them. Nobody told them how to take them and throw them away and start again. And instead it was, here's 10 ways for you to take your personal brand to the next level. Here's 10 ways to stand out in a crowd, blah, blah, blah. But what happens when it's not working? And so that's when from the growth standpoint, I stopped and I said, well, drill it back down to who you're really trying to grow with. Who are those champions that are helping you grow? And then how is it that industry is growing around you? Those are the only 2 answers you need to do when you're personal branding, right? You don't need to become an influencer at the top of a mountain in Bali, to get that. That doesn't fit your profile. The facade is it does, right? The facade is that you'll have that connection if you've got that picture on the beach and you're telling people, here's 10 ways for you to get X, Y, and Z. But the truth of the matter is it won't, don't fall for a system that's not true to you.
When it comes to content media and digital platforms, the most common thing you hear is what?
We tried that. And it's a big problem. We tried that, and it comes from a situation of almost ignorance. It's almost like me saying to you, have you tried this restaurant? And you telling me, no, we tried sushi once, right? And you wouldn't even ask me about, what's in the restaurant. Does it have more than sushi? Does it have more? Like, is there nutritional values of vegetarian, vegan? Like, you just telling me that, and that is, we don't know what the ROI is. We don't know what where the ownership lies. We've been stuck in iterations of this sort of thing before. We tried this, we researched this, etc. And the problem is everybody expected digital to be a button, right? Press this and it goes everywhere. Press this and it launches. We can schedule it and everybody gets it. And that misnomer is causing a massive disconnect between people who understand that these platforms are evolving versus people who think that these platforms are useless. And the ignorance, remember, man, we're seeing it in the world around us. The more ignorant we are to things doesn't mean that they go away. They build around us. People find success in them. So don't put yourself in a situation where you think to yourself, you know what, I tried podcasting 7 years ago. It didn't work. Do you know what's happened in podcasting in the last 7 years? You know what I mean? Oh, we tried to make a website. Nobody came to it. Well, that was at a time when you had to get people to your website in order for you to do your business. And so the disconnect with digital, and then on top of that, mainstream media and their massive push towards the privacy related issues and issues with some of the big conglomerates, they're colliding. And I think that it's now back to power of the people. You know, use the platforms as you see fit, but use them with the right professionals as well. Stop trying to do it all yourself. It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't change your oil and tune up your car by yourself. Well, some of us wouldn't. So don't try to do it all yourself, because trying to do it all yourself, A, negates any benefits of having an economy around you. Creators are around you, designers are around you, people are around you that can help you do your business and make you look better. So work with people where you can.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are your 3 tips for fitness businesses to stay relevant and noticed?
I have 4. That's how much of a dangerous, reckless person I am. And it's an acronym, and it's called BELT. And it's burn, earn, learn, and turn. Okay. And what we're going to do in the fitness world is we're always going to commit that health is first. And we're never going to try to fake the funk when it comes to how we're preaching the importance of health. So it's very important that whatever you're doing doesn't come with a masquerade. You believe what you're doing. That's where the burn comes in. Of course, the earn part comes in the idea that you're not doing this all for yourself and self-actualization. You're doing it because there has to be a revenue involved in it. Otherwise, it's a hobby. Do your hobby, play your guitar, do that stuff. You want to monetize it though, with the effort you're trying to put in. Learning is another major part of the only way you find success. If you haven't put yourself and committed that amount of time into your mental learning and the mental wellness and the idea that you can actually feed a little bit of your knowledge to build your business, then you're just waiting for something to save you. And that's never going to happen. And you'll probably become complacent in the process. And the turn obviously goes with the idea of pivoting. If you aren't in a situation yet where you realize that there's multiple ways for you as a person in the fitness business, whether it's through selling hardware or working on content that's next level, by doing experiential with people in small groups, whatever the case is, if you haven't learned the turn necessity, then it doesn't matter what business you're in, because this is a reminder that that turn is more important than ever. So BELT is the acronym: burn, earn, learn, and turn.
Keep Me. Smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Let's get back to our episode. Mohit, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I absolutely loved your Fitspiration. I thought your 4 tips were fantastic.
Thank you very much for having me. And this has been a great conversation for me as well.
Yeah. And I also loved when you talked about pivoting. I'm hearing that word a lot for 2021. I feel like it's going to be a key word, at least for the first quarter of the year. So I was excited when I'm like, oh, he's talking about pivoting. I think that's so important to pivot your business, make the turn.
Yeah. And I think that you guys are a great example in the digital content that you guys are putting out these days, that we're just to inspire people. And it's a very important part of this process.
It sure is, especially in the fitness industry. We are out to try to inspire people every single day. That's our biggest motto, probably, besides, making them healthy and making them happy. Health, happiness usually goes hand in hand. We are going to put all your information on our show notes so that if people want to get in touch with you, reach out to you, ask you a question, that they can just directly go to you. You also have an awesome book that's called Rethinking Your Content. That's out as well. We'll put that on the show notes so people can, if they'd like to get a copy of it, we'll make it really easy for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's available on Goodreads and Amazon. And of course, if you just want to listen to a book, you can check me out on Audible as well. I think it's tough to one of the things I do want to mention quickly is that it's a playbook. It's not a novel, right? It's very much a book that helps inspire you to do more rather than stop and say, here's what I've learned in the process. So I think that it's a very easy read for people as well. And I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, great. I'm a big Audible book person because I'm driving a lot, and it's just, I don't know, I like to drive and listen at the same time. I kind of get tired of the radio station. So I love whenever there's an audiobook version. So that's great. Well, Mohit, happy 2021. I hope you have an amazing year. I hope this is just.
Oh, thank you. You know what? This has been great. Let's do an update when anything interesting happens and you guys want some insight based on any knowledge that I have. But also, if you're an instructor or somebody who's just a little bit stuck in this content world, reach out to me at thinkstart.ca. It's a wonderful way that we can set up a 1-hour conversation just to talk it through. Don't hesitate. I'm extremely accessible. I would love to make time. I preach about using professionals. I'm one of them. So use me where possible. But also, thank you guys so much for taking a chance on this Canadian, because this voice is very important in your industry. So let's continue the dialogue as you see fit.
Such a wealth of information. I love his quote, "Content is not king, content is connection." That's a pretty awesome quote. So those are the kinds of quotes that get me excited about adding Mohit to our amazing FBP family. So Mohit, welcome, and thank you again for being on our podcast. All right, now it's time for a message from our newest podcast partner, Discover Strength.
At Discover Strength Franchising, we know you want to own a thriving fitness business. We believe you should be able to do work that you are passionate about while also making a great living. Imagine owning a distinguished fitness business backed by a market-tested business model where efficient 30-minute strength workouts are provided to your clients by expert, educated personal trainers. Here's how to get started. Head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com and fill out the contact form. Set up a pre-qualification call with our franchise team. Join us for a mutual discovery day. So head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com so you can start falling in love with your work again.
Quickfire 5.
Allow me to introduce next week's guest, Deborah Strugo from Row House Fitness Franchise. Let's hear her answers to our new Quickfire 5 questions. Deborah Strugo from Row House Fitness Franchise is our Quickfire 5 guest today. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dory. This is great.
Yes, we are going to do our rapid fire questions and answers. Probably one of my favorite parts. So let's get started with your first question. What is a business or a life lesson you learned from one of the jobs you did when you were younger or a teenager?
Oh, I would definitely say to never be afraid to ask for help. No question is a bad question. No question is a dumb question. It will not make you look silly. Do not be afraid to ask for help. In fact, sometimes it helps people see what they don't see. If you have a question, you sometimes are sharing an insight that needs to be solved, and you could look really, really smart just by asking that question. So never be afraid to ask for help.
All right, good advice. Number 2, if you were not doing what you are doing now, tell us, what would you be doing?
Oh, I would be launching a concept. That's what I would be doing, Dory. I am an ideas person. I've learned that about myself. I'm an ideas person. Some people know they are not an ideas person. They need to take somebody's idea and execute against it. So I'm an ideas person. That's what I would be doing, going after an idea.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear your answer to your next question. And that is, when you write an autobiography, what will be the title?
Well, first things first, I have no plans to write an autobiography, but if I did, I decided it would be Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. Oh. Even my kid says it.
Okay, good one. And number 4, what is a book you recommend to all of our FBP family out there listening?
Stone Soup. It's a children's book, and it's pretty much about how when everybody from a village comes together and builds a soup together, it's the best soup that will ever be. Read it. It's a super duper quick read. And really, it just goes back to that teamwork idea. It's always better when you do it with like-minded people.
Okay, perfect. And number 5. All right, Deborah, here we go. Give us your best sales pitch, why our FBP family should come back next week to hear your wisdom.
Well, we're going to talk brands. When you build a great brand, everything is easier. People align to it quicker. Your staff sticks around. Your people want to sell because they're passionate about it. Clients will stay in return. So let's talk brands and let's take a shortcut to success.
All right, FBP family, you heard it here first. Deborah from Row House Fitness Franchise is going to be back next week talking about brand. See you guys then.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family. Sarah Pellegrino here, your host of The Value Proposition. Each month, I'm bringing you an insightful conversation with a different industry supplier so you can learn the value that they bring to the industry above and beyond their product or service. Don't miss this month's episode, The Value Proposition for Networked Fitness with Precor, going live on Friday, January 22nd. You'll want to tune in if you're a facility operator who wants to learn how Precor's networked fitness solutions, including Priva and Advigem by Sony, are helping facilities to get better data to make key business decisions, better engage with their members, and last but not least, tips to get staff buy-in when adopting a networked fitness solution. Download episode 336 of the Fitness Business Podcast, The Value Proposition for Networked Fitness with Precor, anywhere you listen to your podcasts or from our website. You can watch the podcast on our YouTube channel or on our website, fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
Here is a message from our podcast partner, MX Metrics.
Member experience is more than just NPS. With MXM's Member Experience Toolkit, you build a unified view of the member experience, from purchase to onboarding to everyday usage and cancellation. Wire your entire organization with actionable feedback using MXN's Member Experience Toolkit. To find out more, go to mxmetrics.com.
Honestly, FBP family, if you have any further questions or you just want to pick Mohit's brain about something, please feel free to reach out to him. So head on over to our show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com to find his content information. Next up, a message from our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.